Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Reason We Learn. I'm your host, Deb Philman. At The Reason We Learn, we aspire to be part of the solution. The purpose of this show is to take a good, honest, potentially painful look at the way kids are being educated. We know we can do better, and this is where we'll talk about how. Let's learn something. Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Reason We Learn. I'm so excited you're joining me today. I have a fantastic show. We have Alvin Lui here with me. And if you're not familiar with Alvin, you hopefully will be by the end of the show, and you will avail yourself of the tools that he offers. But before I get into his bio, if you're new to the channel and interested in being part of the solution to our education crisis, I hope you will subscribe to be notified when I make new content. Click that notification bell. Please also like and share this broadcast so others can benefit from the information we're about to share. As you know, if you've followed me at all, each of these interviews is an opportunity to hear from people who are working to improve education in America any way they can. And this is no exception. Alvin Lui is the president of Courage is a Habit. If you're not familiar with Courage is a Habit, go look it up now, courageisahabit.org. This is a website that delivers to you ready to use, like actionable tools that you as a parent or a dissident teacher can use to push back on your schools, on the ideas that are poisoning your kids. And they not only give you tools to push back, but also to understand in simple layman's terms. This is like an intro, lots of fabulous infographics and tools and explainers. And I personally find them incredibly useful, and I know what's going on. So if you don't, I promise you, they are fantastic. So I've invited Alvin here today because he's got a new set of tools around something called media literacy, which you may have heard about in your school district. Alvin's going to explain to us what it really is, what they really mean by media literacy, and we'll talk about the tools that he has developed for you. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Alvin Lui to the stage. Hi, Alvin. How are you?
Oh, it's so nice to see you again. I'm
I
doing
know.
great. I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm just glad that we finally got a chance to talk. I saw this stuff about media literacy back in January
Mhm.
when it first came out. I'm like, okay, got to bring this to the
Yeah.
audience.
Yeah.
So, media literacy, what is it, Alvin?
Media literacy. So we tripped upon this actually last July, August.
Uh-huh.
And it's one of those things where because it's not like porn in schools, it's not so in your face. People just go, I don't know. Kind of like SEO. I don't know. It's just teaching emotions, right? When you're talking about like the transgender issue, it's right in your face. When you're talking about the porn in schools, right in your face. It's right in your nose. But when it comes to things like media literacy and SEO, those are the things that are most dangerous. And by the way, the media literacy is just an extension of SEO. It's all through the SEO lens. But media literacy, what that is, it's the mainstream media's last gasp at trying to gain back the control that they know they've lost the last 3-4 years through COVID, through the lies, through the vaccines, the BLM, it's a peaceful protest, all that stuff. So even a normal person that doesn't kind of do what you and I do, if you ask someone on the street, do you trust the mainstream media, NBC, CBS and stuff? Most people go, no, not really. And so media literacy at its most basic form, it's a conglomeration of the mainstream media getting together, getting into your K through 12 and teaching your children that the only credible source, they use credible source, is the mainstream media, and don't listen to any independent journalists, don't listen to any independent organizations, don't listen to someone like you. Deb is talking about that social emotional learning is bringing in critical race theory and cultural responsive teaching and the transgender issue. That's misinformation. That's disinformation.
Right.
Listen to NBC. NBC is saying it's book banning. That's what it is. Deb Philman, independent YouTuber, saying there's porn in schools. No. So today, and this is the 3 things they focus on. But of course, once they get into the schools, and we'll talk about the states it's in and things, it will expand to whatever radical beliefs that they want kids to believe. Today, media literacy mostly, not all, but mostly focuses on vaccine is safe. Any information contrary to the vaccine is safe and effective is misinformation. Climate change is settled science. No need to question. And there was zero election fraud. And J6 was a whatever they call
coup.
it,
Yeah.
coup, right?
Right.
So those are
Insurrection.
direction, yeah. So those are the things that they and then the idea that it was, J6 was planted and it was this, and the people are getting arrested and they're not getting their a day in court, they're getting thrown in the prison without their due process. None of that's true. So media literacy, it's their way of inserting propaganda, but it's the mouthpiece of the government. And that's the key that I think most parents start to kind of lose. Government, is it conspiracy theory? It is a mouthpiece of the government to get your kids to only believe the mainstream media and to start labeling anything that it's not of the narrative, either hate speech or misinformation. And they're going to be able to use that to start taking away people's First Amendment rights.
Right.
But first, they have to destroy all the independent journalists and media that's coming up. This is why the media literacy cartel hates X and hates Elon Musk so much.
Right. That makes sense. And, if it's all right with you, I'd like to spend a moment, just the two of us talking and thinking out loud about if the words media literacy meant what they're supposed to mean. First question, would it be appropriate as a course in school or as a direction in school, even if they were doing it like about how to discern, even if they were doing that specifically? And secondly, what would it mean? So I'll give you my perspective and I'd love to hear your response.
Sure.
I'm of the view that if you taught kids properly in terms of reading and reading comprehension and thinking skills, especially from middle school on up, because the first 5 grades should be just like gobbling up the information so you know how to read and vocabulary. And then I would think middle school would be more about like, now what are we going to do with this? But I firmly believe, and maybe I'm a little bit Pollyanna, that if you do that job right, the media literacy, as in being a discerning, I'm not gonna say critical because I don't like that word anymore, but a discerning consumer of information, news or entertainment or anything, is going to come more naturally because you will have already been sort of trained in the active thinking patterns and asking of questions. And that could potentially be done in, let's say, a history class or something, where let's look at current events around the time of the Second World War. Let's look at what this was saying. Now that we have it in the rear view mirror, let's look, what was the tell?
Yeah.
What was this? So you could have a really interesting Socratic seminar on looking at current events from the past to learn how to ask questions about the present. So I think it would be more baked into how do people present information, not media literacy from the present, because looking at something in the present without that hindsight,
Right.
you have to have a set of questions willing to ask. And so for me, I think the appropriateness of teaching something separate called media literacy is very questionable, given what we know about the literacy of our students.
Right.
Okay, they don't read very well, so that
They
means they don't
don't.
have a lot of knowledge, which means they can't ask good questions.
There you go. That's the
And
connection.
so, that's my take on it. And then if they were doing it right, I just described to you what it would look like. What do you think?
I 100% agree.
Okay.
This is their way of inserting, again, the critical consciousness thinking. Excuse me. I think when you and I talk about these things, when parents listen to us, there's a tendency to categorize things. Oh, it was porn, and then it was CRT. Now it's SCL. Now it's and that's not correct. So I want to kind of reset for everybody watching this. It's all critical race theory. It's all critical race
Or
theory.
just critical theory, period.
Critical
and then
theory.
You've got race, gender,
Queer,
subcategories.
Yes. It's all critical theory, and it's all meant to, there's only 2 goals: to separate children from their parents and to dismantle America. That's it.
Right.
Those are your 2 things, and everything else kind of plays service to those 2 things. So whether you're sexualizing kids, whether you're teaching them that your skin color matters, those are kind of these subtasks that is in service to those 2 things, in service to play service to removing the parents or the kids from the parents destroying the family, and then of course destroying America, dismantling the systems in America, whether it's a 80-year-old beer company or a 300-year-old university, it doesn't matter. It's about dismantling the system. So when you're absolutely right, when they start putting in any kind of, oh, we need climate justice, we need racial justice, media literacy, there's no such thing as either justice or literacy. Once you put something in front of it, you know you're being scammed. You know that you're about to be set
all
up.
those qualifiers.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting too, because they are getting to decide what media is. So that
Absolutely.
the first tell is that the school, i.e. the state, let's just be clear what it is.
Government K-12, right?
It's the government. So the government is telling you what classifies as media. So the kids are going to be exposed to these are the reliable sources. So you end up with a mindset amongst the children, a belief amongst the children that if it's not credentialed, if it's not big, if it doesn't have a corporate logo, if it's not, it doesn't have a certain reach, and if the school doesn't say, like they say, YouTube Kids is a great resource, or go use it. They think it has the imprimatur of the state, ergo it's truthful, when they haven't been taught yet, especially historically, about how the state lies. So you don't know any history, and you don't, not even recent history. The kids who are kids now don't really remember the lies of COVID. They're not comparing and contrasting.
No.
So I guess I would hope parents, and the other thing you've pointed out is parents, when they categorize things, and when we tell them the goal is to dismantle America, I think it confuses a lot of people, Alvin, because I think a lot of people have never stopped and thought to themselves, well, what is America? Okay, it's not a geographic boundary.
No.
It's not, there are a set of principles and there are principles, values, and laws that are basically rights protecting laws, like the First Amendment, that make America unique in all the world.
That's right.
And so when we talk about dismantling America and people go, what, really? Why would they do that? And like, can you think of a reason why the state would not want you to have free speech? I can't imagine why they wouldn't want you to have free speech. It baffles me, really.
Let me tell a story that's a little bit more specific, and hopefully this helps on a more micro level. So when we talk about dismantling America and creating the Red Guard, those are really, really big, right? And a lot of people's eyes glaze over because they're like, what do you want me to do about it? And I understand. So that's why, you and I are having this wonderful conversation. But, certainly when we're working with parents, like when we put out tools for courage as a habit, or when you're working with parents and you're coaching and things with students, we do bring it down to something more tangible, right? So I'm guilty. We've been guilty of this. I know all of us have. What myself and my organization stopped saying earlier this year or late last year, they're going to dismantle America. They're coming. If we don't stop them, they'll dismantle America. We don't say that anymore. We say it in the past tense. They've dismantled America. They've dismantled our systems already. What we're watching is not the coming of a revolution. You and I, we're the revolution right now. What we're seeing is the rebuilding of the systems. I will give you an example. So, and I wish I could remember this cooking company. It was Ralph or something like that. I wish I could remember, but it was on X, and I guess this cooking company had this old, like they've been producing these like beautiful cookbooks, and it sounds like they're over 100 years old at least. What they did was they did a baking contest. No whites allowed. No white people allowed. Okay. It was all POC and this, and basically no whites allowed. This contest was only for everybody but white people, right? And they call it inclusive and equitable. And so many people, and these people are not anybody that would be somebody that would be in our education space or anything like that. They're just normal people that just happen to be following this account. And comment after comment after comment was, how could you do this? I've been baking through your cookbook since I was a little girl. My mother gave me this. My grandmother gave me this. My aunt gave me this. I've been baking through your cookbook. I'm throwing it out. See, these people, whatever this cooking company is, it's been dismantled. So for these people, when they look at this company, the logo's the same, the name's the same, but it's like when you watch those zombie movies, when the zombies taking over, or if you watch one of those like really freaky, movies where the spirit's taking over, it still looks like your brother it still looks like him, but it's not him anymore. It's just a vessel. And it's the same thing.
Right.
Harvard, Yale, Bud Light, all these companies that's been around for so long. I'll give you one more example, and then we can kind of move on from that in terms of the dismantling. St. Mary's College. St. Mary's College is 188 years old. Okay. This year, they turn 188 years old, or 187. I might be off by a year. St. Mary's College, for those of you who don't know, it's an all-girls college. Okay. It's an all-girls college. For 187 years, they've never thought, hey, maybe we should let a man in here so that he can show his penis to all these girls. Never asked that. Last year, they did. And in November of 2023, they changed their admission process for the first time in 187 years. And they wanted to let a man in who pretends he's a woman, right? They think he's a transgender. By December of 2023, they lost so much money. The donors were so angry, they changed it back and made it some rambling excuse about it. The point of it is that St. Mary's College is still called St. Mary's College. They didn't change the logo. They didn't change anything. It's still a school. It's not like they turned into a gas station. But they've been dismantled.
Yes.
That's the only reason why for 187 years, they never had to make that decision. And they did, because they brought these people, they got infiltrated. They dismantled it from the inside. Obviously, it didn't just happen in 1 month. Whenever St. Mary's College started creating a dye office, maybe 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I don't know. But in that time, they started whittling equity statements and this flag and that flag. And then they finally got to their admissions process.
Right.
So whether you are been following a beer company, a cooking company, your alma mater is Yale or Harvard or Princeton, all the systems have been dismantled. So stop saying it's coming. It's already been here.
No, it's done. And you're right. The revolution, or it's people like us. So the communist revolution already has occurred. The cultural revolution has already occurred. And we are counter-revolutionaries. And your examples are fantastic. And what I would tell people, if you know anything about history, all you need to see about, why this is done is to look at Mao's rise, right? We've got to do away with the four olds. So the same goal, the same mission in terms of dismantling America, we've got to do away with what made America, America. Just like, and remember, Chinese history was thousands of years. In terms of the culture, the language, and who was, who were the artists, who were the professors. We're talking about traditions.
Tearing the statues down. The art.
All of that. And it did not take long at all. No. And so what I look at what's happening in our country and with this media literacy stuff is, if you wanted to have if you wanted to politically dominate for forever, let's say that was your goal. And we know going back to the 90s, James Carville wrote about it. Yeah. He wrote about how he wanted to help the Democrat Party dominate for 100 years, 1,000-year Reich. He wanted a Democrat Reich, basically. Right. And he wasn't shy about it. Neither were a lot of other Democratic, political operatives. Sure. And so what is the fastest way to disenfranchise at the ground level in a real way, not in the voting booth, but like in life, to deprive people of any kind of power to affect change or to stop things from happening, is you don't need to mess with the voting booth.
No,
you don't need to go there. This is what Mao understood too. You don't need to come up from the top. What you need to do is you need to create an othering that others the majority. Mm-hmm. So the numerical majority in America still is basically white Europeans. Mm-hmm. So they're the largest voting bloc, but also the largest economic bloc in the marketplace, the largest employers and all this, just by sheer numbers alone. It has nothing to do with better than, worse than supremacy. Right. Their definition of white supremacy is just numbers. Yeah, but they call it something ugly. Yeah. And then suddenly everyone goes, oh, I don't want to be that. Yeah. And people are handing away their power. Like, take it from me so I can still be a good person. Lo and behold, they have infiltrated your organization because you were in such a big hurry to hand off what little power you have. The proof that we're not a literal white supremacy country is that the numerical supremacy of white people was decimated inside of 4 years.
That's right.
Gone. Zero. Right. It's over. Right. It has been done away with.
So what we call, and you're probably familiar with, what we teach, with the way we talk, exactly what you said there. We call it weaponizing your kindness.
That's it.
weaponizing your kindness, weaponizing your empathy. So we really start, one of the things that we really want people to get comfortable saying, and it's not, and the fact that this is going to sound uncomfortable for you is testament to what you just said about giving away your power. So say this out loud with me, everybody listening to this. Reject inclusion, embrace exclusion. Now, for those of you if you've heard this for the first time, you're going to feel very uncomfortable. Now, ask yourself why that is. Why do those 4 words make you uncomfortable? It's because of what Deb just said right there. They've weaponized your kindness. That's called brainwashing. That's brainwashing. So let me couch it in a way that will make you feel a little better about it. Okay. Reject inclusion, embrace exclusion. Am I a racist? Am I bigot? Am I transphobe? If you think those things, congratulations, you've been brainwashed. But let me take it back to something that you'll understand, that everybody should understand, whether you have kids or not. One of the best indicator of a good parent is not inclusion, it's exclusion. So take you back to when you brought your baby home. Okay. Everybody had bring their little baby home, right? What do you say? What do you say? No, I won't let maybe my mom, my dad come visit, maybe my sister. People can't hold her or hold him for a couple months. You bring them out, but only you can't let strangers hold them because they're germs. Then when he starts crawling, what do? You exclude him from the kitchen and the light sockets and the thing, and he can grab things and put in his mouth. You exclude him from that. Then when he gets a little older, you exclude him from like, hey, you can go over here, but you can't cross the street. You can't talk to strangers like this, right? Then he gets a little older. It's like, oh, who's his friends? We got to exclude certain people. We don't want him as friends. Yep. On and on from the first day you bring your baby home. It's all, in fact, you know what? Let me go back. When you're pregnant, it's about exclusion. You don't eat certain things. You stay away from smoking. You stay away from people with bad influence. You're like, you know what? This person in my family has been real toxic. I'm pregnant now. I have a family. I'm not. So everything about good parenting, from the little time you bring him home to the time they become adults, and even after that.
Same thing with relationships, even any kind of relationship. If you're dating somebody, if you're married to somebody, if you have a best friend, you're not indiscriminate. No. See, this is the thing. It's like we used to make it wasn't a bad thing. In fact, it was a good thing.
Good thing to be exclusive.
Yeah, and we use the word exclusive, but I mean, I would even if that bothers people too much, if every time Alvin is saying exclusive, you're doing this. Okay, he's right. You've been brainwashed. But if it helps you cross that, helps you cross that bridge, that thought bridge, think of it as discerning. Okay, discriminatory in a good way is discerning. What we all discriminate. We have to. It is a survival skill. And especially as a parent, you don't just let any random smiling stranger co-parent with you. And that's what a lot of the teachers are doing, right?
Or content. Look at how open they are with content. Oh, anything goes. Drag queen story, doesn't matter. It's about butt plugs, about blowjobs, about anything. So you'll notice that pedophiles.
What are your pronouns, 6-year-old?
Yeah.
That's the one I always give, and people go like this, and I'm like, they're doing it. You know they're doing it.
All about inclusion. That's why the inclusion is so well received by the transgender cult, by drag queens, by people who are pedophiles. They love inclusion. They love it.
But they really, it is. But to your point, they don't love inclusion. Inclusion translated from their language dismantling.
Dismantling, right.
Getting rid of discernment. Yes. Getting rid of boundaries. Yes. So inclusion just means boundaryless.
Boundaryless.
Right? Whereas, okay, so that's getting rid of boundaries, and they're very eager to exclude. That's the other thing, is the flip side of no boundaries.
They're so eager to exclude you. That's
right. No boundaries means there's no role for you, mom and dad, because mom and dad's entire reason for existence is to protect and nurture the child. That is literally, we are a boundary for our kids. So when there are no boundaries, we're not necessary. What is our purpose?
That's right. So please stop worshiping at the altar of inclusion. Reject inclusion, embrace exclusion, embrace boundaries. And you know what? You do it already. Before this brainwashing happened to you, you've done it. Your parents do it. Your grandparents do it. That's the only reason why you're here. Your lineage would have ended if your ancestor embraced exclusion. You would have been eaten by a snake, a dinosaur, a saber tooth. The only reason why you're even here is because your ancestors throughout the millennia embraced exclusion. That's why you're here. So the fact that we've convinced a generation of parents to be inclusive, it's never happened before in the history of mankind, because we were always about good parenting, has always been, will always be about exclusion.
That's
always.
Right. And the media literacy thing is kind of another one of those efforts, isn't it? To say, first of all, we're gonna bait and switch with this loaded language. We're gonna contaminate the language. We'll talk about that.
Right.
And we're going to lull you into this idea that we're helping your child be discerning, when in fact we're being exclusionary.
Opposite. Yeah.
So
let's talk language contamination, right? So the way we talk about language contamination is, here's the best way, easiest way that everybody can remember it. And then I'll give you an example, and then we'll bring it to media literacy. Language contamination is using your vocabulary, but not your dictionary. Using your vocabulary, but not your dictionary. So let me give you an example that's anybody can understand, and I'll give you a second example from the transgender cult. And then by the time I finish these two examples, you'll understand you should understand media literacy, because that's a little bit more.
I'm going to bring it up so that people can see.
Perfect. Thank you.
There it is. Yeah.
Just like the way we rehearsed it. Perfect.
There it is.
So let's say Deb, I said, hey, Deb, you want to go meet for coffee? She goes, great. I'll pick you up. Oh, great. Thank you. I'll pick you up in this street corner, and I'll say, okay, what's your car? Yeah. I drive a blue sedan. A blue sedan. Great. I'll look for a blue sedan. So I'm sitting there. You call me. Hey, I'm sitting right here. Come on over. I'm like, I don't see a blue sedan. You're like, I'm right here in the corner, right to your right. Look on the right. And I look, and you're in a red truck. And I'll be like, what the hell's wrong with you? You said it's a blue sedan. You go, this is a blue sedan. Imagine she's used my vocabulary, but not my dictionary. Imagine if we all went around talking like that. We would, the whole country would fall apart, right? Everything would fall apart if everybody used a vocabulary, not your dictionary. So that's why language is so important, because obviously we share language. This is what they do to the kids at school all day long. They use
That's what they did with equity, diversity,
inclusion, belonging, all of it, safety, empathy. So when your child walks into a government K through 12, this is why the mental health, the real mental health, not their version of mental health, the kids are doing so poorly in the last 10 years, because everything that they learn from their parents and family, when they walk into school, it's completely switched. And social emotional learning has molded that language. So they're going to school going, wait a minute, my parents told me this is a blue sedan. They're like, no, your parents are wrong. This is a blue sedan. I think that's a red truck. Nope. And they just keep grinding that. So imagine if that happened to me and Deb. I'll be like, well, this is insane. This is not a, and you go, no, this is a blue sedan. If she's driving a red truck, using your vocabulary, not your dictionary. Let's take one first to the transgender cult. The way the transgender cult are literally passing bills, or at least attempting to pass bills, where they don't allow the therapists to dive into what the root cause is for why a child is getting wrapped up in the transgender cult. Because we know 99% of kids that get wrapped up have some sort of underlining. And if you've been on Deb's show, she's had some fantastic people on. They've talked about it, of course, bulimia, cutting, anxiety, mostly sexual abuse of any kind. And that's why they get into wrapped up into it.
ADD, autism spectrum disorder, all kinds of divorce in the family, you name it.
Divorce, right? Death, accidents, all kinds of stuff, or a combination of even.
Yep.
And so what happens is the therapist in the past, before this transgender cult took over, again, talk about dismantled the American pediatrics, the therapy, all the systems that we relied on to be experts have been dismantled. So before that, though, when a child believes they're a different sex, obviously it was very tiny, very, very rare, they would go, let's dig into why. And then they would find why. And then, of course, the child doesn't think that anymore. So the transgender cult needed to make sure that therapists didn't step out on their own and started to solve these underlying psychological issues. So what they did was they passed a law that basically said we are banning conversion therapy, because they know conversion therapy, because we haven't seen conversion therapy in decades, that still triggers to people electric shock, you're tying them down, you're putting them something, biting on the mouth and shocking them. So people still rethink conversion therapy is forcing, praying the gay away, that kind of stuff. But of course, when they use your vocabulary, not your dictionary, what they mean by conversion therapy is they won't let a therapist go, we're not going to give you puberty blockers. We're not just going to remove your breasts. Let's find out what happened. You're 13. You're not. So what happened? And then they dig and, oh, when you're a 9, you're sexually abused or that kind of thing. That's why they use conversion therapy.
Well,
They
and
use your
I'm
vocabulary.
really frustrated because we've watched this happen now so many times. Even Black Lives Matter is its own version.
Oh,
Black
yeah.
Lives Matter, social emotional learning. All of them are
Okay.
their own version of, we're going to make something sound really good so that if
Yeah.
you say you're against it, you're obviously a bad person.
That's right. Yeah.
But the conversion therapy one bothers me the most because we know that a very high percentage of these kids would they probably are pre-gay. Like their high percentage will grow up to be gay.
It seems like it. Yeah.
And we've reached a point in our society where that's fine, right? We actually don't want conversion therapy. So the trans cult is a form of conversion therapy. It's basically saying you, the boy who's going to grow up to be, a homosexual man, or you, the girl who's going to grow up to be a lesbian. You're actually really a girl, but that is super homophobic because it's saying it's okay for you to be attracted to the same sex if you are the opposite sex.
Right.
And instead of, I wish we'd thought of it sooner, but you see, we're not diabolical manipulators and narcissists.
Right. So we don't think of it like that. Yeah.
Right. So we don't think of it like that, but they must have like a workshop of people who literally sit there and think of all the ways to gaslight normies like us and say, what's a thing they hate and don't want to be labeled or don't want attached to their being or their identity because they really are good people. Oh, let's call it this. Because it's a diabolical how well they have contaminated the language and co-opted words to where you're like afraid to say things. Like you said, be exclusive. Be exclusive. Champion that in your life. And people are like that.
Yeah. Without, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but what you said there when you say there must be some kind of workshop, it's called the Aspen Institute. So if anybody wants to look it up.
We knew it existed, right? It's, okay. So now you guys can go and Google up Aspen Institute.
Aspen Institute. That basically it's the organization that delivers. Have you guys ever go, how did all of a sudden everyone call it gender affirming care? Was there a memo that went around? Why does all of a sudden everyone goes, Black Lives Matter, you're not teaching real history? How did you get that? Look, let me put it this way. So most of you work, most people work, right? Or at least they've worked. Even if you're a stay-at-home mom, you've worked at some point.
You're busy is the point.
So so have you ever think about when you had a team meeting, right? Whether you work in a retail place or a corporate office, you have a team meeting. Maybe there's like, I don't know, 4 or 5 people, right? And then you go, okay, we agree. You're going to do this. I'm going to do this. You're going to do this. And you got to do this by March 9th so that he can do this by March 11th. And right. You do that. And everyone goes, okay, good. You go to the bathroom and you come out, someone goes, oh, you didn't need that, right? You're like, we just had that meeting. You can't even get 5 people in your office to agree to something. How did globally they got this? Because it's an organization that delivers this. It's called the Aspen Institute. So anyway, things like media literacy. Let's come back to media literacy. Now to language contamination. So let me give you some statistics. Media literacy currently is in all 50 states. Okay. It's in all 50 states. They already are in your schools. You don't believe me? Go to your website, type in media literacy and see what happens. Okay. It's in all 50 states. Does it mean it's actually guaranteed in your school district? No, not yet, but it is in your state. It's in all 50 states. It will be in your school. 4 states today has it as a graduation requirement already. I promise you in this year, they're going to be able to double, if not triple that. Okay. There are 4 states that has it as a graduation requirement. Off the top of my head, it'll say in that tool, if you scroll down, but it's Texas, believe it or not, is one of them.
Oh, I'm not even remotely. So you have the states here.
Right there. Illinois, Texas, New Jersey, California. Those are your 4 states. That's graduation requirement.
People need to understand there's a method to this madness too. I've been trying to explain it to people for so long. I know
you have. Florida and Texas, right?
Okay. Take the electoral map.
Yeah.
and go like this.
Yeah.
And go like this. And
Right.
you'll see a very interesting thing. Now you'll say, well, why Minnesota? Well, obviously, there are going to be some in there that are just early adopters because they love it, like Washington State, Minnesota,
Illinois.
New Jersey, Connecticut,
Yeah.
Rhode Island.
Yeah.
These are no brainers.
Right.
But
Right.
Florida, Texas, Ohio. Now, Tennessee is interesting in Utah. People have asked me, what's the deal with Tennessee and Utah? Well, a lot of people who have fled these blue areas have gone to Tennessee.
That's right.
And Utah.
Right.
And Florida.
Right.
So how do we make sure, like insurance policy, that we make sure we capture these states so they can't be lone holdouts? Well, we'll teach their kids. This is really basic stuff.
It's basic. Yeah.
It's not complicated.
They get your kids. That's it. So
Lenin said so.
This
and
is
Hitler.
And Hitler. Yep. Mao. It's the same. This is not, there's nothing new that we're seeing here. It's just new to America. This is why when they say, you know how BLM, CRT people always say, we call them CRT losers now. The CRT losers, they always say, oh, you're whitewashing history. We didn't whitewash history. What we're doing is we've redwashed history. That's right. Why nobody understands. Mao makes Hitler look like someone who just maybe robbed a convenience store, right? In terms of body count. That's true. So when you look at this map, this is just breaking down the 4 states that have a graduation requirement. Some states already are funding it, and then some states are encouraging it in their curriculum. But it's in all 50 states. When I say they, by the way, there's one piece before we move on. This tool here that Deb is showing, okay, it's our tool that exposes a organization called the News Literacy Project. Okay, it's called NLP. For those of you who know, it also stands for neurolinguistic programming. And if you don't know what that is,
look it up.
Look it up. There's a reason for it. But for now, for this purpose, it's NLP is it's the News Literacy Project.
Parents, you need to know the people at the car dealership who work in the finance department. Like the people that talk you into, you're like, how did that happen? What just happened? I got talked into that extended warranty and the rust protect. Waha. Okay. They literally go to NLP classes. Right. They take lessons in how to manipulate you using language. And they are using NLP now and not shy about it with your kids. They'll tell you on the Castle website, our goal is to rewire. They literally say the word rewire the neural pathways in the child's brain. And they act like this is a great thing.
That's right.
They're all broken. They come into the school broken. It's okay. We're going to fix them.
Yeah. And
this is fixing.
And they're broken because of you, parents, because you taught them that the Constitution, their rights matter, Second Amendment, First Amendment matter. You taught them that a man can't get pregnant.
Yeah. You didn't have to teach them that. Reality taught them that.
You taught that, right? Yeah. Or that they believe that the skin color doesn't determine their success. That's why they're broken. This is why when you hear words like trauma informed, that's what they mean. Your kids are broken.
And that is also why they treat all parents like we are abusive.
That's right.
Because all that means, the new definition of abuse by a parent is disagrees with school.
That's right.
That's it. It's like it is assumed that if your child doesn't arrive already agreeing with all of these progressive ideas and the socialist garbage, whatever, then they've been alienated from their true self by the abusive parent.
Yep.
So yeah, it's very sad.
It's very sad. So we're your parents now. We're your new family now. That's
why they call them our kids.
Our kids.
They say our kids.
So there's the literacy project. Okay. So if you guys go to courageisahabit.org right now, go to courageisahabit.org and click on NGOs. There's a tab called NGOs. You will download something called a media literacy scam in K through 12.
Right. It looks like this at the top.
It looks like that. It looks like that. You can't miss it. So we break down for you who the News Literacy Project is. They partner with all the MSM, all the mainstream media. Okay. All the mainstream media. And see, look right here. They say, with your support, we're in all 50 states. That's the screenshot. These are just screenshots right from their website. Right. So they partner with this is basically supported by all the mainstream media, and they call themselves nonpartisan. Yes.
Can we look at this list? I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
CNN, the New York Times, NPR, the Washington Post, BuzzFeed,
Look at Vice. Vice and BuzzFeed.
Vox, Reuters, Slate, and MSNBC. Oh, but we're nonpartisan. We're
Yes.
nonpartisan.
Yeah.
Joy
So-
Reid works for MSNBC, but we're nonpartisan.
But nonpartisan. But even better, not only are they not now these, we didn't just put these logos in, by the way. We didn't just like randomly pick logos. These are the logos that we're pulling from their website.
Yeah.
That supports News Literacy Project. But if you go down a little bit more, okay, so let me just explain this real quick and then we'll go down to the people. Because, you know, exposing the organization's one thing, showing you the people, that's when people get it. So the way the News Literacy Project's broken up, and they have more than this, but here's your three main kind of like sister arms, right? They're arms. Checkology is where teachers go to get lessons. Checkology is where they go and get lesson plans and things like that. It's a virtual classroom they can use. Kind of, so Deb, you'll know this. It's kind of like teachers pay teachers, and you know how you can go.
Teachers are not teachers anymore. Can we stop calling them teachers? They're presenters.
The presenters.
They're like the Vanna White of today's educational material.
Here's some second step. Here's some Leader in Me. Yeah.
And I love Vanna. Don't get me wrong. I watch it every night. But that's what it is. It's in over here.
And over Leader in Me. Yeah. And here's some.
I'd like to buy Mel.
Here's a sex video from Amaze. Here's some Planned Parenthood. Here's some.
This isn't teaching. As long as they check the correct boxes, they're considered and smile a lot.
Yep.
And validate, affirm, whatever the most loud and narcissistic and borderline personality disordered student in the class wants. Right. They're a great award-winning teacher.
That's it.
If they don't do that, yes, award-winning. You get an award for being, here you go.
So the News Literacy Project
is scary, Alvin.
Company. So Checkology is there, again, if you've been following Deb, some of these words like there's organizations for SEL like Leader in Me and Second Step that's their version of it. But you'll start seeing Second Step and Leader in Me, some of these SEO vendors, they'll start using this too. So that's what Checkology is, okay? The Shift is a newsletter that you can sign up for so that they can deliver more.
It says the Sift. It says the Sift. The Sift is like they're sifting, and so I'm sort of like, why would you want anything that claims to be sifting the media for you? Like, don't think. Yeah. We got you.
We got
you. Here it is. This is what you need, little child.
They might as well call it the
sifted out all the stuff we don't want you to see.
It's like curation, a curate, you know. And here's my favorite. They're
at the beach. You know, like, oh, I found a gold watch. Okay, here's the sand.
Yeah, that's right. So here's my favorite. Rumor Guard. Basically, they almost wanted to call it the Red Guard, but they're like, no, that's a little too on the nose. They even have it as red. This is their logo. They call it Rumor Guard. And Rumor Guard, let me explain to you. I know, Deb, let me tell you what Rumor Guard is. Okay, let me give you an example.
Don't think.
This is, okay. So anytime one of people like, you know, Chris Rufo or anybody who's presenting, who's really blown things up, right? Really just, you know, or Deb exposes something, or anybody from, you know, our education blows something up and say, here's what it is. Okay. So here's how Rumor Guard does it. Let's say an independent journalist says, I'm here right now in Arizona, and I have footage of 4 white vans coming in at 3:30 between 3:15 and 3:30 in the morning. 4 white vans came in, and they have the ballots. They have the illegal ballots. That's how they got the election fraud in there.
Right.
Rumor Guard will come in and say, this is false. This is misinformation, because we learned that one of the white vans was actually the janitorial crew. So you see, it's really important not to listen to unvetted, not critical journalists, they call it credible journalists or credible organizations.
Right.
You see what they did there? This is a little bit of that neurolinguistic programming. When they said now this could be true. The independent journalists could have been like, hey, I think there are 4 vans, but one of them could have been the cleaning crew, but they didn't talk about the other 3.
Wow.
You see how that works? That's neurolinguistic programming. If I say, see, that van was a janitorial van. Look, there's the guy with the bucket. You see, Deb was wrong. She's misinformation is dangerous. You cannot listen. You must trust credible journalists. And I'll show you who their credible journalist is in a second
Yeah,
here.
I want to show you something since you're talking about this.
You see how
Remember
they do
back
that?
when we
You
were
see that?
remember when we were in Tampa at Moms for Liberty
Yeah.
and I spoke about SEL.
Yes, you did.
This is what they said about me.
Okay. Oh,
So
let's see. Okay.
they quoted me. This is the whatever
Yeah.
Daily News. I can't remember what
Yeah.
affiliate they're with, but
Sure.
you didn't stand out there outside the school that first day of Deb film and told the attentive crowd and say, don't listen to everything the teacher says because they might be lying to you and they might make you feel uncomfortable. And that's because they're a secret Marxist. That was my joke. Like I
Yeah.
led with this humor, right? Applause and laughter rippled through the audience. Mandarin 32 had already told school district officials about her gripes with social emotional learning and education method at the center of Philman's presentation that aims to teach students empathy and emotional processing. So they make it sound like it's so wonderful.
Yeah.
But they denied it was happening, she said. So how do we stop it, she asked? How do we stop this from going through our schools when they lie to our faces? And so then they go through this whole thing and it says, blah, blah, blah. And again, that their concerns weren't just valid, but part of a grander scheme. Right. And then it's, teachers are brainwashing students. Here's what the title is: At Moms for Liberty Summit in Florida, political strategy comes with a dose of conspiracy. So there's your headline.
There's your framing.
Dose of conspiracy. If you'd have to go read the article to find out, I didn't say anything except this is what's going on in the classrooms.
Right.
The parents are frustrated, etc.
Right.
And then they go through, but they're nowhere in here does it say anything about why what I said was wrong.
That's right.
Not a damn thing.
That's right. And that's how rumor guard works. That's how rumor guard works. They don't say where you're wrong. They just say this could be wrong. That's it. That's all they're saying. They don't ever point out and say, and okay, that's one trick. Here's another trick. Here's another trick that they do. Okay. They will take stories that are really extreme, right? Obviously stupid and wrong. Obviously just, there's always a subsection of the internet that's ridiculous, right? Like, I don't know, Ron DeSantis is taken over by aliens, something stupid.
Yeah.
Okay, something like that, right?
Or all of Hollywood, they're all secretly using Wayfair to traffic children.
Or
that's
like,
probably a little bit extreme.
Epstein's still alive, right? And he's living with
stuff like that. Yeah.
Right. So anyway, so they'll take something like that, and when you read it, you're like, okay, yeah, of course that's wrong. Okay. Or they'll even do this. Rumor guard might even take, let's say, an AI photo of Trump being arrested, and they'll say this photo is AI and he didn't get arrested like this. That they're trying to make Trump look like he got arrested outside of Mar-a-Lago and he did not. This is false. And you're like, oh, so they're saying that this is not true, and they're not. They're like, see, they're nonpartisan because they're saying Trump didn't get arrested as an AI photo. So don't believe everything. Then they'll nest it with the truth right under that and say that's false too. So your mind fills in the blank. You say, well, that's an AI photo of Trump being arrested, and they're saying it's not. So they're nonpartisan because they stood up for Trump, and then they'll nest it in with something that's very true and say,
well, that's been the case with Snopes. We've caught Snopes doing that many times. We've got, people, oh, it's nonpartisan. Snopes is nonpartisan. Like, that's interesting. Like 1 out of 50 stories like accurately picks on defends somebody that is on the right. Everything else is meant to make the right look bad. And it's not to say that they are incorrect with saying what is a lie and what is true. But if you read through some of their lie versus true, there's always that middle ground, right? In news stories. And this is what the kids are not going to get. There is that ground where it's like, look, it's true. There are true facts in here, but it's nested in opinion. This is editorializing. So, which is neither true nor false. It's opinion. And so they're going to do this false dichotomy of true or false, rumor, not rumor. And so what Snopes would do is to say partly true. And it's like, no, what you actually mean is editorial. It's not partly true. It is true or, but then this is someone's opinion. So say so. It's not that it's partly false.
Right.
Okay. And so that is, and the kids are also not learning that opinions are not facts.
Right.
Feelings are not facts.
Right.
That you have to have correct facts arranged in a certain order and certain framing in order to form opinions that make any damn sense. That's the other thing that all these mainstream media outlets do, isn't it? Is they'll take something true and frame it in a way that is so outrageous that what was one story becomes a completely different story
Yes,
just for how they framed it.
that's right. So if you scroll down a little bit more, let's look at who they deem as a credible journalist. Let's keep going and you'll get to the people. Okay. By the way, if you scroll, just stop for a second and scroll up. This is a book that's in Maine. The one up, just one more page up. So this is a book that's in Maine in is it elementary or middle school? Anyway, this is a book in Maine to say it meant to persuade children not to trust their families over the corporate media. And so this is a literal book in Maine.
In general, professional reporters can be trusted. Are you insane? What? Even if they weren't political,
Yeah.
dead serious, even if they weren't political, reporters make their money because their papers sell ads.
Yeah.
They are there to make a living. Going again, this is where history comes in. Go
Yeah.
all the way back. What was Citizen Kane based on?
That's right.
Go all the way back to William Randolph Hearst.
Yeah.
And look at what the papers printed. Look at Henry Ford and how he bought a newspaper for the sole purpose of printing anti-Semitic nonsense.
Yeah.
I'm sure they had reporters.
Yeah.
No, if you make your living selling your words to people, like selling access to your words to advertisers, not the person buying the paper.
Right.
To the advertisers.
Right.
The trust in you as a reliable source of information ought to be tempered with a hefty dose of skepticism because they've got advertisers to please, television, et cetera, and so forth. Whereas the independent journalist who's selling their words directly to the consumer, directly, like there's no ad, I'm not selling you ads. I'm not selling ads to pay for my existence. I'm selling it to you. I would like to think, or I would hope as a consumer, you would think that person's credibility is a little bit higher because if you find out they're lying or you find out that they're full of it,
right,
they got nothing to fall back on.
Right.
No one's going to pay them for more eyeballs.
That's right. That's right. Now read that third paragraph that we pulled from the third bullet point.
When a majority of experts and scientists agree on a topic, there's a good chance that they're.
Now, the American Academy of Pediatrics. Okay. Puberty blockers for 9-year-olds because we all agree they've been dismantled, which is what we talked about.
But 9
earlier.
out of 10 dentists surveyed said, no, I mean,
smoking was great. See, that's what they're teaching. This is what I mean. They're going right to the kids. They're going right back. This is for
credentialism, white lab coatism. This is crazy. When a majority of experts, I have so many questions. Define expert. First of all, that's a loaded word. Define it.
Yeah.
Define majority, because we all know that the left has changed majority. So they change what expert means, then they change majority, because how do we do that? Well, we just don't even include anyone who already doesn't agree with us.
That's right.
In the numbers. So
right.
Yay, we have a majority.
Yay. Majority, yeah. They dox all the scientists that said the vaccine was unsafe, that mask didn't work.
Exactly. And the majority of who was left agrees with us.
Majority.
Isn't it amazing?
Amazing, right? So anyway, this is in Maine. This is an example of a book in Maine for elementary school students, for middle school students. So that's what I mean by it's already in your school. It's already in your school.
Wow. And also, this is misleading too. In this book for children, 98% of scientists say climate change is real. That's like saying 98% of people think weather is real. Climate change, I don't think anyone denies that climate is changing. Yeah. That's just called like weather and over time. Where people disagree and they're not letting the kids understand this difference is people disagree as to why.
Yep.
That's the only reason.
So we wanted to show a book. So anyway, you can go back down now. You can scroll back down, and then we get to the people. Okay?
Are these are the experts?
And these are just, and again, the tools that we put out can't be 25 pages, right? So we just picked a few people that this guy, Ali Vesha, is one of the worst journalists in America. He literally stood up for book. He wanted porn in school so bad that he created his own Ali Vesha banned book club. Features this book is gay, genderqueer, the whole 9 yards. That's this is who they feature as a credible journalist. Ali, so you see that little screenshot when we say watch?
Yeah.
If you want to, you can click on it. We can watch him talk about book banning just to give you an idea. So if you click on the word watch, it should take you there. There you go.
Okay, let's see what he says.
Now, we're not seeing the video, so I think you
Oh,
might
I'm sorry. Hang on.
Yeah.
My bad.
There you go.
Different from what we normally do. I'm on the ground in Michigan this week, so I want to talk about what book banning looks like up close, because it doesn't matter where you are in America. Book banning is everywhere these days. And right here in Wayne County, right down the street from where I am, a contentious book ban made headlines last week. Dearborn, Michigan is a city in Wayne County. It's got about 100,000 residents, and it's typically a blue city. The residents here have voted for Democrats in the recent elections, and the city's been controlled by Democrats since 2006.
Mostly Muslim.
Kind of conservative stronghold you might associate with campaigns to censor reading lists and libraries. But on September the 12th, Dearborn Public Schools temporarily removed 7 books from its library. You might recognize one of these titles, All Boys Aren't Blue, by George M. Johnson, which we've already featured on the Velshi Band Book Club. Most of the literature on this list centers around queer characters and stories and characters of color. One parent alleged that these books were promoting, quote, pornography and rape culture. Weeks of divisive public protests followed, culminating in a raucous school board meeting last week. Some parents angrily argued for the books to be removed from school shelves, while teachers voiced concerns for the safety of their queer students. Outside, things got even uglier. Protesters carried signs that read things like, "Keep your dirty books in the closet," and "Homosexuality is a sin." The meeting devolved into such chaos that it had to be suspended. The board elected to reconvene a few days later at a nearby middle school to accommodate the more than 600-person crowd expected to show up. Now, in the lead up to this meeting, the Dearborn police chief urged residents not to let things get out of hand, saying, quote, "The eyes of the nation are on Dearborn." But that didn't stop hundreds of protesters from showing up anyway, again with offensive posters, despite the school district barring signs from the meeting. Several Republican and Democratic candidates running for state office turned up to the meeting as well. You know these faces. We've been talking about them all weekend. Christina Caramo, the Republican candidate for Secretary of State. Matthew DePerno, the Republican candidate for Attorney General. They showed up to this little school board meeting in Dearborn to make speeches, to make book banning part of their platform. But despite all this, despite the protesters with their jeers and their signs, the Trump-backed candidates turning a local school board meeting into political theater, a handful of brave teachers and residents also showed up to stand up, not only for the books and their authors, but for the people who identify with the words written on those pages.
This, I gotta stop and comment here. This is
You see how he muted? You see how he muted the other people talking about the books, but he's going to let this guy make his case?
Exactly. And he describes them as sinister. Like we supposedly live in a democracy.
Yeah.
And we're, you know what, but he described, they showed up to have campaigns. These are their constituents, sir. And they show up to support their constituents. Yes, of course they want the vote, but I guarantee you, if Democrat candidates showed up to support their constituents, be like, hey, they showed up to support their people. This is framed.
And I watched this whole thing. I watched it live, and the 2 people that they show, they were just like any parent going, they were talking about like this book is gay and the porn and stuff like that. That's why he couldn't show what they were saying, but he's going to show this guy. Anyway, I think we got the point. Anyway, when you go back to the PDF, right, our tool, now I think everybody's heard enough from this guy. That's who they say it's a nonpartisan expert that they feature.
That is an absolutely part. First of all, keeps saying book banning. When schools have curated their libraries since forever, these are state-funded schools. They have parents there who agree with it, parents there that don't. And when there's a disagreement, someone's going to win. And I like to believe that the people who win are the ones who don't want the porn in the libraries. If you are so hell-bent on giving your kids a copy of All Boys Aren't Blue so your child can read about dildos and anal sex and rape, you can go over to Target, where I'm pretty sure they sell it, or even Amazon. And go ahead and buy it for your own kid if you're that bent out of shape that they can't see themselves.
They can't read that.
Whatever. This bothers me so much. And I'm not even one, by the way, who thinks we need to focus so much on these books because
Right.
it gets this,
Right.
but I hate that they frame it this way.
That's right. And so Brandy, if you anybody again, we won't go through it here, but she is super radical. She docks regular citizens who voted for Trump. I mean, she used her media power to dox regular citizens. This woman is so radical. Listen, like here's some of her tweets.
Parents with kids 5 to 11 are evenly split between whether to vaccinate right away, wait and see, etc. The reach of the scaremongering videos. That's not journalism. That's editorializing.
Mhm.
The smallness of this, scraping off rainbow stickers, shows how terrified some conservatives are of this LGBT boogeyman. They've made it harm, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but taking down posters of Israeli hostages is totally fine, right?
Right. Yeah, right.
Hateful and violent online rhetoric targeted LGBTQ people has been ratcheted up for months now, just hours after deadly mass shooting at a clip Q, etc. Oh, can we have a chat about who did that shooting? Right. No, we
Yeah.
can't talk about that because that defeats the narrative.
That's right. Mhm. This is your not. So again, this is a organization that's in your schools. It's in all 50 states. They are touting these people, not a Deb Philman, not a Chris Rufo, not a Matt Walsh, not a Jan over at Epic Times, not those guys. Those guys, the loons, their misinformation. These guys, little boy, little girl, go listen to them. They're the credible source. Oh, and here's the part. See, I told you we didn't take the logos randomly. There's your partners. We didn't even include all of them because we're covered in.
Every single solitary one of these is left-leaning.
This is a screenshot, folks. We didn't make this. This is a screenshot. All these are just screenshots.
And look who's funding it.
Look who's
News
funding it.
Corp. His own network isn't there, but News Corp is there. In case anyone thought that there were actually two sides to the political coin, there's News Corp.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
There's
then
just
we
two
also did a little
sides to the market. That's all there is.
And then after that, they have a podcast called "Is That a Fact?" And we took some screen captures from their podcast, from the, from what the description.
The scientific community has presented indisputable evidence. That's not what science does.
No,
that's not what science does.
There's no such thing as indisputable when it comes to science.
Literally everything in science is disputable. That's kind of why it's science and not religion.
Right. That's why it's science and not religion. But now science is religion because it's been dismantled.
And one thing that I can tell you for certain is not indisputable is that climate change is the result of carbon emissions from human activity. Right. That is not only disputable, it has been disputed over and over and over.
But the media literacy cartel suppresses that. And then kids are crying about the world's going to end in 10 years if they don't do something. So you get the point, right? So the tools that Courage is a Habit puts out, we try. I mean, I have to admit, this is probably bigger than our normal tools. Our tools are usually not this heavy. They're usually probably like 5-6 pages. This one came in at I think 12 or 13 or something.
Yeah.
So, 13. But we wanted to give. So when you bring this to so you go to your school and you go, who's doing this media literacy? Because they're going to sell it to you. Don't you want your kids to know fact from fiction? You're going to go, yeah. Again, language contamination. You go, hey, where are you getting your materials and resources from? They'll say News Literacy Project or something like this. And then you can bring this and say, is this nonpartisan? And your administrators will not know what to say because they likely won't know this.
Well, would you recommend that they ask, is this nonpartisan, or would you recommend that they go and say it isn't? Because here's something that's concerned me. I've been teaching for the last year. I've been trying to teach parents to ask lots of questions.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And one parent at a meeting raised this point and she said, okay, and then what? So either they don't answer me or they answer me and they say, they just give me some answer that I know isn't true.
Right.
So I'm now of the view that we need to start doing what they do. And you tell them. You just go and you say it out loud. If you go and you ask, I'm afraid that they're going to say, oh, no, it isn't. It's fine. And then what's your next comeback?
Well, that's why we have the tools. So if I was a parent, I would say, you guys are using News Literacy Project. Tell me about them. Why are you using them? What gives them the credentials to teach our kids media literacy? They're nonpartisan. They just this. They're not on either side. You're going to go, great. Sir, let me show you something. Turn your laptop or phone around and play that video of Ali Visha and go, does that sound? And then show them the screenshot of all the conglomerate, right? And then say,
yeah,
You just, you, Mr. Principal, you just sat there for the last 5 minutes and said, news is great, da, 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 da. And he's going to go, now he's screwed, right? Because you're just literally showing him that he'll go, well, you know, I'm not involved in picking the district. And you go, no, wait a minute, though. You didn't say that. When I asked you, you pitched them and said they were great. Asked if you vetted them. So you didn't vet them, but yet you told me it was good. And if I didn't have this information, I would have walked away believing you. Now he's cornered.
Now, Alvin, I think you know as well as the next person, this is starting at the state level, but it's just a matter of what, like 5 minutes now, that the Federal Department of Education is going to be giving out grants for media literacy. And they're going to say it's part of the whole push for civics, that media literacy and civics. Right. So
your 5 minutes is up. They already are. They're doing a grant on that already. And I know, my partner, Jennifer McWilliams, who does Courage is Habit with me, she's like exposed that, and she's going to come out with something with that. But yeah, that's something that she's looking into. But no, it's the grant's already.
Yeah. So what I've been telling parents is, and this might be something that you guys can look into adding, is I've been trying to paint them a picture. You guys will actually be able to draw them a picture of the food chain, the sort of chain of command in each state, or at least how to find it out, of how, who applies for these grants, how they get them, and who's accountable. Right. Because Tennessee, and I really want to make this more widely known, the Tennessee Republicans are the first group of people that at least convened a committee to study what it would take to say no to federal grants.
You know what? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So they're the first. Yes. So they're the first ones. Now they're just doing it. I don't know how it's going to go, but I was sitting there like cheering them on, like, yes, please do this. But I think if parents, if there's a phone call to make, if there is pressure to be applied, it needs to be applied to the state legislature. Both parties. This shouldn't be partisan. Both parties, to tell them that they need to do whatever they can to structure education budgets on an ongoing basis, such that if the federal government, and you think the Democrats want this too, what if Donald Trump comes in and says, I'll give you a grant if you do the thing I want you to do?
Yeah, right.
So they should be structuring their budgets. So at any point in time, if their constituents, the majority of their constituents who they're supposed to represent, they don't represent the federal government, say like, whoa, 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 we don't want the SCL, or we don't want the media literacy, we want that. They can financially say no. As it currently stands, they're not sure if they can handle it financially. They're not sure if they can handle it legally. What the federal government is doing is they're getting very clever about like how they always do with Ukraine funding and the border. So they're taking IDEA money, which is constitutionally required for the federal government to give it to the states. Right. And they're bundling it with these fancy special wokey things. So if a state wants to say no, they can't unbundle the funds. I personally think that itself is like triple unconstitutional, but it's going to take the state legislatures and the governors to push back. Pushing back on the principle is fine, but ultimately that guy is a functionary. And if the governor and the Department of Education in the state says we took the money and we got to implement.
You're right. It's the ESSER grants. The ESSER grant was the same way. He took that money and more social emotional learning. Biden goes, if you want your lunch money, remember how they always talk about feeding kids? Oh, the kids. Oh, but if you don't keep secrets from parents.
They're doing it now with Title IX. With Title IX, they're doing it now. They're saying you're not getting your lunch money if you don't implement Title IX, which now includes the genderless bathrooms.
That's right. See, so the strings are always there. And this is what you talk about with homeschooling, right? Which is a whole other topic, but you do a great job with that. It's the same thing. You cannot go back to the same poison well to solve you being sick.
Nope.
That's ridiculous. If that well made you sick, the answer to the cure of
isn't to put it in a different bucket and take it to a different
you can't
glass.
Take a different bucket and take them the same well.
This is what my beef about school choice and that's another contaminated language thing. Who hears school choice and says that's a bad thing? So I do, and I'm a terrible lefty, horrible pro. No, I don't support them, but it's the same pot of money. It's the same government. It's the same rules. And what we just saw, right? It's like, oh, you want you want this money for the lunch? You're going to have to take this money for the title. You're going to do the Title IX thing. Well, how long before the state government or the federal or both say, money's fungible, guys. You giving out vouchers and ESAs, that means you're some kind of way you're coming from the federal pot. So they've already decided, the federal court in Maryland already told the parochial schools that because they're nonprofit, there's not even an ESA money involved. There's not even a voucher involved. You're nonprofit. That's effectively a tax break. That's money from the federal government. No, it isn't, but okay. Yeah. And so you have to implement Title IX. Too bad, so sad.
Otherwise, you lose your tax exempt status.
That's right. And so they're like, wait, what? So this is how they're doing it. They're holding them hostage with money. So going and complaining it's good. At least make it known. But if you really want to be effective, you got to hold your state legislature.
Right, it's a top down, bottom up. So you got to throw the sand.
You got to do both.
What our friend James Lindsay calls a sand in the gears, and
absolutely. And at minimum, what this is one more thing that parents have to add, right? They have to add to their list of to-dos with their kids. Hang on one quick second. I got to get us back to here. A list of things to do with their kids when the kids come home from school.
Yeah.
Of what you got to undo, because if you can't get it out, and you live in one of these states, or any of the states are going to have it in, what did we say, 5 minutes? This is what your child is going to think is news. And then you've got to you're counter parenting
all the time.
So people tell, I couldn't homeschool. It's so hard. It'd be so much work. I'm like, I couldn't do this.
Yeah. Oh, this is hard. That's hard.
No way.
Doing this all day. And you know what? It's an unfair fight. They have
it's not fair.
7 hours. By the time you have dinner and shower and homework, you have them for maybe an hour, maybe an hour and a half of quality.
And do you want to spend it in conflict?
Right. So,
and then too, it's not just conflict between you and the child. Let's say your child agrees with you. I had my children were like, I know, Mom, I know.
And then you got to go fight the schools.
Then the poor kid is going back to the school and they feel uncomfortable. Oops. They feel uncomfortable for 7 hours a day. They're the outlier.
Because you're opting them
so
out.
You're like, I sent my kid to school for socialization and to feel like they have friends, but because I want them to have proper values and thinking skills, I've made them the pariah.
Yeah. At the end of there's no way around. There's no way. You can pick your heart. It's hard. Pick your heart, right? Being, exercising is hard. Being unhealthy is hard. Working and grinding is hard. Being poor is hard.
And if you don't choose, it's going to be chosen for you.
Oh yeah.
And there's that. So I'm so glad you guys did this and that you're, even though it is 13 pages, it's absolutely rich with content. We've just shown you guys what is out there to explain it to you. If nothing else, you will deeply understand it and you will see that it is contaminated language.
We wanted to have a one-stop shop with that. So that's why 13 pages, but there's a lot of screenshots from their website so that you don't have to dig through it because we did the digging for you. If you want to verify, you can go to their website. We got part 2 coming out probably within the next month and a half or so. And part 2 is going to be not really about the schools necessarily, but about how they're using the schools, but outside of it to take their First Amendment rights away using media literacy. So the second part is going to be really it's just an extension of that. But of course, we're going to start with school first because that's where it starts. So
we already know that the disinformation, the whole thing about we've got to fight disinfo and the whole push in the federal government to try to clamp down even on Elon Musk because of disinfo.
Yeah.
That is absolutely sinister between the Twitter files that got uncovered and what they're calling disinformation is anything unflattering to the Democratic Party.
That's
or
right.
really even
That's
to
right.
leaders that are in the Republican Party, but it's
That's right.
mostly the Democratic Party. Anything unflattering to the state is disinfo.
We have, for anybody that wants a one-page, like what Deb just said, anybody wants a quick one-pager, if you go to courageasahabit.org and click on decoders, we have a one-pager that says, what is hate speech? And it's just a quick one-pager, courageasahabit.org, decoders.
Okay. I'm going to show people so they know what they're looking for.
Yeah. And it just basically is a nice one-pager to just reflect what Deb said.
Okay, so we've got Courage the Habit, and then you've got the decoders. I love these. These are the things that I use so often, the decoders.
Yeah,
these are nice and short. This is a great intro to parents. So if you are talking to someone who's just completely new to all this, and
good.
You whip out some of these.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Pulp Fiction's great
language,
about how they use that. What
gaslighting.
about the kids? And there it is. What is hate speech?
This one, what is hate
Yeah,
speech, right?
yeah.
And so then we
So
come
this
into,
basically is a
yeah,
one-pager to exactly what Deb just said about 30 seconds ago.
right,
To
exactly.
you, hate speech means calling someone a derogatory term based on their immutable characteristics. To them, this is what hate speech means, and they will add to this list. This is certainly not an exhaustive list, but that's what they mean.
Exactly. The other favorite of yours is that I have is the one where it's kind of like, what kind of teacher are they?
Oh, the don't say of abusers.
Yeah, and that one, is that a decoder or is that another
No, that's
one?
under strategies. That's under strategies.
Strategies. I gotta show this one because
I
so
love that one too.
these are all the strategies.
Yeah,
And
right
this
there.
one, the dossier of abusers, this is my absolute favorite. I mean, I love all the stuff, but
Hey, I'm with you. I love this one too. This is my favorite too.
I could not love this more, partly because I know all of these people. I've seen them in my work. But parents, I know that one of the hardest things to deal with in all of this is that cognitive dissonance, but they seem so nice. They can't possibly mean harm, blah, blah, blah. And what this does is help you understand that you might be right. They
Yeah.
might not mean harm, but they might. And
Yeah.
this is so well done as far as how to discern
How to discern.
which one you're dealing with
Yeah.
so that you can change, like alter your approach,
Yes.
because there's no one size fits all
No,
approach.
right,
I mean,
right.
there are explainers in here, there are question lists, there are all kinds of cool things, but it is super important before you leverage any of these tools.
Yeah.
Find out who you're dealing with. This could be the principal.
Yeah.
This could be the superintendent.
Yeah.
So the principal could be the activist. The principal could just be the deflector, the avatar.
Or
But
the
if you,
spineless. If you go down, who you talk about the spineless,
usually
they're
it's
nice,
this
but
guy.
they're so nice. But they're so nice.
Yeah, but they're still a very high threat.
That's right. Because they're so well, the beginning, look, under behavior, they're the really nice and friendly people, often in positions of authority of influence. They're really nice, but they're weak. So they let this stuff in. So they're not the activists, but they let the activists in. So she's right. You got to know. And so these are the 6 types of people, either teachers or activists in your community. And like she said, if you've been doing this for even like 6 months, when you download this, you will know.
You'll know this is my kid's teacher. This is the principal. This is this. And then you can craft your messaging because it is so, so important to leverage for each one of these. You have a strength that combats it because you identify what they don't have that you do have. And then you use that against them. And, like this person has no moral courage.
Right.
0.
That's right.
So, but they're super nice.
Yeah.
So they're easily fooled and they care that everyone likes them, you included. So there are things that you can do, and it's so important to know who you're dealing with. And
who not to waste your time with. Like if you scroll up a little bit, go to the deflector. Now everybody knows the deflector. Okay. They make it their business to support all things harmful to children. They just don't want you, the parents, to make it their business to defend it. So they're the close sibling to the liar. They'll often say, it's none of my business. Why are you so obsessed with children's genitals? What about the Bible?
Exactly.
It's on the internet anyway. That guy.
Yeah, it's just change the subject. Spending even 2 minutes talking to this person is a waste of your time.
Okay.
Around them, over them, under them, whatever. But this guide is gold. I remember when this first came out, I was like sharing with everybody because it said you've got to know your enemy before you deal with them, or you're just going to be yelling at a brick wall.
Yeah,
so anyway, I just wanted to show it because
thank you, Deb. That's so I remember talking to you about this actually on your show when it first came out.
That was like my favorite one. And it's because we I've taught so many parents so many things, and they get all fired up. I'm going to go and I'm going to talk to them, and then they get deflated and defeated almost instantly. I tried, and I'm like,
they get gaslit. Ran around, double talk.
Well, it's like when your best friend is dating a loser. Male or female, it doesn't matter. And that person is, a narcissist or a manipulator or whatever. And you're sitting there like, what you need to do is stand up for yourself and you need to do this. Like, I will do it. Yes. And then they go and they try to do it, not realizing that the person is a gaslighter, is a manipulator. And they come back and go, it's all my fault. He made me see that he's just trying to help me be a better person. And I really should listen to him more.
That's exactly right.
And I'm not wrong, right? We all have that
you're
friend.
exactly right. And you, as the friend who obviously isn't in the emotional abuse and the emotional blackmailing, you're like, how can you not see that? But they can't. And that's
They
what's
can't.
happening.
And when your child is being held hostage,
it's even worse. Yeah.
It's 10 times worse.
10 times
It's
worse.
10 times worse.
10 times worse.
So anyway, Alvin, thank you so much. Thank you for all you do and for putting these together. These are great tools. Parents, go to courageisahabit.org. Just write it out like that. And then it's at Courage Habit on X
and Instagram and everything's there.
Yeah, keep up with the Twitter, because as they produce new tools, they put them out there. And because this is all supported by your donations, also go to Courage is a Habit. And if you're so inclined, make a donation, because that's how these things get made. All the work that people like us do, we do because
you support us.
It's because the people who need this need it, and we don't have a big corporate sponsor and all advertisers. So so,
Bud Light's not going to be sponsoring us anytime soon. So your donation.
Well, we're not credible. We're conspiracy theorists.
We're not credible sources like Ollie there. So
no.
But hey, listen, I remember when you first came out with your YouTube channel and just your improvements on it and the way you've got this channel going. It's so good. You've done such a fantastic job on it. It's really a pleasure to see you have so many people come through and
I wish there were more. And I mean, I wish there were more, mostly because I wish that more people were kind of tuning into some of the stuff. But honestly, if it's not to me, if it's to you, if it's to James Lindsay, if it's any of the other people who are essentially saying, I know now, Logan Lansing has a podcast now that everyone should subscribe to. He just wrote a really great book about the gender stuff. I kind of don't care who gets the message to these parents and to these teachers, just get the message. But I will say one last thing, and in case your folks need this as well, I did start a parent support group through my Discord community where twice a week I'm online on audio. They don't have to show their face. Available to support members. It's private membership, but it's very affordable. And people can come on up to 4 hours a week and pick my brain about what's going on with their kids, what's going on with their school.
That's fantastic.
Because of Discord, they can send me something in the chat. We can put it up on the screen and dissect it. We can look at it. We can talk it through. And I did this in particular for the parent. It could be for anybody if you're homeschooling or not, but it's really actually aimed at the parents who have kids in school. Because people were saying to me, like, okay, you're a homeschool expert, but I've got to send my kid to school. And what can I do? So I use tools like Courage is a Habit. And I will go through it with people and say, okay, here's the tool. And we coach. So while I'm available, obviously, for private coaching on an hourly basis, the annual membership to this is like a couple bucks more than 1 hour of my time. So I tell people, like, join. Show up. It's paid for itself in one visit.
One conversation with you pays for itself.
A whole year. So stuff comes up, come on a Wednesday at noon, come on a Sunday at 7, whichever works for you. Pop in, be like, hey, Deb, what do I do? This happened, that happened. And you've got 2 opportunities a week to get somebody at least to even hear you rant. Sometimes parents, you just need somebody who goes, you're not crazy.
That's right.
You're totally sane.
Hey, you got this. That is so valuable, and I'm 100% certain that so many parents have gotten so much from
I just got to get the word out, and Alvin, you're like way better at that than I am. So that's why I'm like shilling it here.
I'll grab the link from you and everything, and we'll put it out because, hey, listen, this is the kind of valuable stuff that parents need, and to be able to talk to you and ask you specifically. That's so valuable, and definitely.
It's called. I'm hosting it over on Woke Screen, and I've called the community "The Reason We Parent" because we have the reason we learn.
Oh, the reason we learn, nice,
right? But then I decided I was like, okay, what am I going to call it? And then I was like, wait a minute, what is the biggest thing that we need to hold on to when we are parenting to feel like we can do this, because it's super, super hard fighting with the school. And so what I've done is called The Reason We Parent. And you can see,
I love it.
This is a little kid. They're going to leave someday. They're going to walk out into the world.
Wow.
That's why we do it. So I said solutions over obstacles. And the whole point of it is, you
That's
know, to give
great.
people, there's a chat, there's a community call. I have live webinars that I offer to members only. They can share links and files. If it's not a day for meeting, send me a file. Hey, Deb, I'm going to show up on Sunday. Can you look this over and talk with me about it?
What's the URL?
So it's wokescreen.com/the reason we parent.
Nice.
The reason we parent. And I've like joined the conversation. And
Wow.
the whole point of it is that what people are struggling with is there are Facebook groups, but Facebook, as you know, because it's social media, it has the tendency to end up being that sort of catfight thing.
Ah,
And you got to go in and write something, and then it's out there. Someone could
mm.
screen grab it,
Yeah.
you could take
Yeah.
it, also
Yeah.
attached to your personal profile. What
Yeah.
I'm trying to do by both having a paywall for
Sure.
privacy
It's right.
and the security of like, it's your voice only. You don't,
Yeah.
I don't turn my camera on, even if that, so you don't just put your camera on, and you can use a fake name for your Discord. We don't
Yeah.
have to know exactly who you are.
You
So
just
you
ask them the
can
question. Yeah.
go in there and ask the questions and get the help that you need, and then get out and feel safe. You know, share as much as you want to share,
Yeah.
get support from people. And the one
Great.
thing that I promise to all of my members is zero judgment,
Mm.
because Facebook is chock full of judgment. You should do this, you should do that. And
Yeah.
you're getting it
Yeah.
from all sides.
Yeah. Nope. You're
Zero.
just hearing from you. You're giving them advice, and you're giving them specific advice that's relevant and
That's it.
immediately relevant to their child tomorrow.
Their unique child. Like I was like, we put out, you and I put out stuff that's like, here it is,
It's general. Yeah, more general, right? This
But
is perfect.
people are saying, yeah, but my situation's like a little different.
Just
I'm
a
like,
little,
okay, super. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. Yeah, that's great. Hey, Deb, I'm glad you did that. That is
Yeah.
sorely
So
needed.
fingers crossed, we got to get it more, like more people to know about it. But
Yeah.
I think if we can get it going and get more people served, if nothing else, what I hope it does is empower parents
Yeah.
to feel capable of
Yeah.
using tools like yours,
Yeah.
using their own voices,
Yeah.
and not just feeling like my only choice is to go to the school board meeting and yell into a microphone.
Right.
And no shade on the people who've done that,
Sure.
but as we've seen, it's of limited utility.
It's limited utility, right?
There's better
And,
things.
I think for someone like you too, whether you're taking something from myself or Lisa Logan or Jen or anybody else, you also know it better than the average parent, right? And so if they go, hey, we're trying to use this from Courageous Habit, or we saw this from James, or we saw this from Lisa, or saw this from Jennifer, you can go, well, okay, let me give you a little context to that, what they're doing, right? And so you are really, because you do know all of us so well, you can explain those things in your Discord chat. And I think that's a very valuable thing, because sometimes, you just have someone kind of interpret some of this stuff. It helps a lot to kind of make it more relevant.
Perfect example using Courage as a Habit. I had a parent come to me talking about the SEL stuff.
Yeah.
And thinking, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go in and tell them all the things that are bad about SEL, and had the explain or whatever. I said, all right, tell me about your school. Tell me about, and I said, here's another angle on this, given where you are, given the lay of the land. There is an infographic about Chicago, about the Chicago school district and their stats pre-SEL and post-SEL.
Right.
Sounds to me like the parents you're going to be talking to, the school that the school board that you're going to be talking to, are going to be more, or have a harder time fighting back and arguing with you when you have numbers, you have dollars, you have stats. So I was able to hear about the different personalities involved and say, this resource, not that. This one is probably better than that one. There's a resource for every situation, probably, but you might accidentally pick the wrong approach.
That's right. And all of us so well that produce these things, because you've produced things, obviously, and you've talked to all of us.
This.
But you talk.
You guys are like, and here it is in a picture. And I'm like, wow. I took 2 hours to say that. That's better. But it's still, when people come to the meeting, then that's
it. And you've talked to us, you've known us for a while now, all of us that produce stuff. So you can represent the things, or at least give context in a way that maybe the average parent that maybe only come across our stuff, maybe don't see yet. So your Discord is huge. This program of yours is hugely needed. Needed. I'm glad you did it. I'm glad you started.
One other thing I'm going to do, I'm working on it, because I'm also making resources on our Wokescreen website. We're having resources of like curated stuff plus content I produced. And I want to put together like a playlist of little packages, curated packages of whose podcast and video and tool.
Oh,
If your goal
nice.
is this, if your goal is this, if your goal is like
Oh, that's
sort of like
great.
little packages of 3 or 4 pieces of content to consume if what you want to learn
Oh,
about is SEL,
wow.
CRT, et cetera, et cetera. So
That's
people could
great.
come in and
Yeah.
just be like, oh, there it all is. Like,
Yeah.
and obviously, I'm not, that's my version. Somebody
Yeah.
else you might,
Yeah.
but you've got to have a little intro, like,
Yeah.
you know,
gotta
it's
start
like those
somewhere 'cause there's so
14
much
days
stuff.
to a better body. Do these 3
Yeah, right.
exercises day 1. So I want to put something together that's
That's great.
almost like a 2 weeks to better understanding of your school district, and then you like all the stuff.
Wow, that's
And so,
fantastic. That's
yeah, those
great.
are
That's so
because that's
good.
just curation.
It's
That's not
curation.
even. That's it.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
you said, I've consumed like a
So much.
ridiculous amount of this
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. And
So anyway,
you know us, you've talked to us multiple times, obviously,
exactly.
either be on your show or private conversation. So there's, you know what we do well, what we don't do well. And so when you curate for a package for a parent, it's so valuable. You've saved them thousands of hours, you know?
That's what I'm thinking is like, you know, they're overwhelmed. They're out there like going, oh my God.
Yeah.
You know,
For
so
what
this
you
way
charge for
it's
them, the
easier.
amount of hours that you save them is pennies.
That's what I was trying to say is
Pennies.
like, you know, you got there, we have a woke screen membership, which is like, you know, separate from the parent group, or the parent group that gets you access to the woke screen stuff. So because not everybody's a parent. Some people are coming in, they're teachers. There are
Oh,
other
sure.
people, they don't
Oh,
need
I
the
see.
parent group.
Yeah.
So we have 2 different things, but in either case, I want people to feel like this is a membership where I can get stuff out of it. If nothing else, if before the resources are there,
Yeah.
you're supporting my ability to produce them.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And second, like how it was with you.
Yeah.
And second thing is
Yeah.
that I'm there.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, if
Yeah.
somebody came to one of my meetings and they said, I just don't know which ones to watch,
Yeah.
I'll be like, all right, I got you.
Yeah.
Look in your mailbox tomorrow. It's done.
That's
And
great.
it's done. So
That's great. Hey,
yeah.
I'm so glad you launched it. We will definitely be pushing
Fingers
it because
crossed.
no, I think it's so needed. Thank you for having me. Thank you. It's
Thank
always
you
so
so
lovely
much.
to talk to you. You just keep doing what you're doing, keep creating,
Thanks.
keep innovating. This is
You
fantastic.
too.
Thank you so much.
All right. So thanks everybody for watching. Please remember, like, share, subscribe, and go to courageasahabit.org, support them, and download the resource of your choice. They should all be of your choice. But anyway, all right. Thanks everybody. Bye-bye.